let's do another little guideline test. I think this is going to be the thing now. Anytime I do a video, if you send me your work for critiquing, know that I am going to draw guidelines on it, and check if you've used them or not. Although I already know that Stephen uses guidelines, so that's a really good sign. It might actually be more that Christmas is on a different angle altogether. Yeah, I think it is. So that's not too bad. Yeah, so let's take a look at this now. First of all, props for this M. I love this M. I think this is one of the nicest ways of drawing a script M ever. Love it. And I warm up by drawing my name pretty much every morning. It's one of the things that I do. So I'm always doing M, and that's a really nice looking M. I love that M. So great job on that. Looking at this here, I think these R's are actually better than the ones in the other design. So I don't know if you did these after or before or whatever, but they're actually better. One little thing is that the two R's are different. So one thing that you can do is, well, I mean, if you're struggling with that, you could actually just draw one, duplicate it, and use it as a base that you can just trace for the second one to make sure that they are aligned. Because if you have two R's next to each other and one looks different to the other, it becomes obvious that like this just something's a little bit off. So looking at these, this first one is much better. Like you've really sort of tightened in that loop that I was saying before. So for me, it looks a lot more like an R. Yeah, I would, you know, if you did something like that, that would be awesome. So definitely a lot better. This one's just, you can sort of visually tell they're not quite identical. This one doesn't actually come up to the guideline, whereas this one's at the very top of it. So just a little thing there. The Y I really like as well. Again, talking about the visual balance and filling spaces and stuff like that, that flourish off the Y is something that I do a lot myself, and yeah, there's a big visual gap here because the word Christmas is a lot longer than the word merry, so you recognize that and filled some of that space. So again, you know, really well thought out idea. For the word Christmas, I like that you chose to drop the H rather than just straight up connecting it to the R. It's something a little bit more creative, and that's good. What can we look at in these individual letter forms? So this M is better than one of the other ones that I critiqued in the Dream On design, because I can tell now by looking at it, the gaps are much more even. So the spacing looks a lot more natural to me. This A looks maybe a little bit wide compared to some of the other letter forms. So that's one thing that I'd maybe think about, is just tightening up when you draw the A's, because even if you look at, say, the A compared to the E, this E looks nice and I don't know, nice and thin, I guess. It just looks really well balanced to me. So the A could maybe just be a little bit more narrow, and yeah, that would be really cool, I think. This R, again, the one at the top here, this one's definitely my favorite one that I've seen so far in the drawings that you sent in. I think if you did something quite similar with this one, that would be awesome. I can sort of tell that you've kept this one a bit lower on purpose though, so that you can fit this fancy crossbar flourishy thing in, which is cool. I would maybe, if that's what you were thinking, I would maybe even consider just shortening this crossbar up to here instead. And that way you can still fit the full size R in there, if that makes sense. And also one thing that's cool is that if you are doing a crossbar like that, you don't always have to dot the actual I, because the bar can kind of implicitly do that for you, which is cool. One thing that I've noticed in a couple of the other designs and this one is that when you're leading into an N or an M, you have quite a big gap here. So if I just illustrate this again, with an M, what you can do is go straight into it like that. Whereas if I just pretend that's the T and the M, whereas with yours, it's kind of, you draw it and then you come up and then you start the M over here. So visually it looks like there's a really big gap here, even though it's not that bad at all, but it just sort of looks like it. So again, I'm being super nitpicky here, because overall this is quite solid. This, yeah, again, just back on the topic of the guidelines, these could do with just being a little bit closer. and that would just help to kind of balance things out, I think. So with the C, I like it. It looks like a C to me. You could maybe just smoothen it out just a tiny bit. It comes out kind of low, almost like an, oh, not like an E, but you know, I would maybe just think about a few other ways, because then at the moment there's a little bit of a gap in here, to me anyway. At least that's just something that I'm picking up on. So the way that you could maybe just loop that a little bit bigger, or change the shape of it so this is closer to the actual C, that might help as well. But again, this is really just small nitpicking and perfecting and stuff like that. One really small thing again that I would note is that you've I'll just jump to the actual design real quick. So you've brought down the descender and done a nice flourish with the Y. You've also done a really nice crossbar with the T. One thing that I would maybe consider is the way these overlap does look just a tiny bit busy. One way that I sometimes get around this myself is by just creating the visual of as if one's going underneath the other by adding shadows. So just to give you a quick example, you could sort of just erase that part there. So that gives the implication that the Y is in front of the crossbar there. And then usually on the second part where they connect, I would do the opposite. So I'd be more likely to do something like this. And then it looks like, now it looks like they're all, you know, really linked together and intertwined. So I think that's pretty cool as well. But yeah, that's just a personal preference type thing, really. That's something I do a lot in my work. So yeah, overall, I hope that's been some useful advice for you. I hope you aren't offended by anything I said. And again, really respect you for sending in your work like that. And if any of you guys out there watching would like to have your work critique like this, I'm always happy to take a look at people's work and try and provide advice and stuff like that. And yeah, thanks again for watching, guys. It's good to be back on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video.